Benito Vergotine. Smile 90.4 FM.
Joining us this evening to elaborate on the key SME business trends to be on the lookout for in 2024 as the country braces for yet another unpredictable year ahead is the strategic head of SME support at Fetola, Anton Ressel. Mr. Ressel, good evening and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Benito. It's really nice to chat to you.
Thanks so much for your time. Firstly, what is the focus of what you and the team do at Fetola?
We are essentially focused on growing the small business sector in a number of different ways. So we work mainly with entrepreneurs on sort of large-scale business development and business growth programs, and essentially focus on building businesses that last and helping entrepreneurs and small businesses to really attain, I guess, new levels of success. And we've been doing it for 17 years now.
And given the challenging economic environments which businesses, SMEs included, find themselves in, what are some of the key aspects that one needs to be aware of for this year?
I mean, I think some of them are sadly quite self-explanatory and we've all felt the pinch. I guess one of the primary ones facing us domestically certainly is this persistent low growth. You know, our economy grew at 0.6% last year, which is one of the lowest growth rates globally. So our economy is not growing, and therefore we're not creating the jobs that we need. So obviously unemployment remains a big challenge. And I guess that for me would be the primary challenge that is facing local entrepreneurs and small businesses, is just this period of low growth. And then I guess if one zooms a little bit further out and looks more at the international landscape, you know, things like currently the two wars that are sadly raging, and the one in the Middle East and in Russia, has caused a lot of constraints, global supply chain disruptions, and I guess also just cause a tightening of the belts all around. You know, business confidence is down globally. Global growth was actually at its lowest ebb last year, and apparently the forecasts are not much better. So there's a lot of headwinds facing businesses in general, and I guess small businesses even more so.
How can one then, within that context, within those headwinds, possibly turn that around and find a tailwind and develop strategies within that environment that can be opportunities for SMEs? Anton?
It's a great question, Benita. I guess, we always like to say that small businesses are more resilient and particularly more able to adapt to the changing environments that they face and the changing trends and things that sort of happen unexpectedly. And I guess this is a great time to prove whether that theory holds true. You know, wherever there's challenges, there's opportunities. It's a bit of a cliche, but it is true. If you look at things like just the fact that global supply chains have been disrupted by the war in Ukraine, it's become a lot more challenging to import product, for example, into South Africa. There's been disruptions, you know, the fact that our ports are not working as efficiently as they should be. But that creates opportunities for local manufacturers to get into supply chains where potentially they wouldn't have been considered before, because now there's a more reliable option right on one's doorstep. So that's just one example. I guess persistent challenges that we face from a structural perspective locally, like load shedding, provides another opportunity. If you're in the solar space at the moment, you're smiling as an entrepreneur. Similarly with water, you know, where water is scarce, it creates opportunities. So I guess the short answer would be just to look for where the needs are and make sure that your business is well positioned to satisfy those needs.
It's a way down the road, but the African Continental Free Trade Area does provide an opportunity for SMEs, particularly when you're talking about bringing those supply chains closer to home.
For sure. I'm hoping it's going to be quite a game changer. You know, I've always been a proponent of encouraging trade within, amongst African countries and really trying to leverage off our respective strengths and work together in a much more regional fashion, like the EU has been able to do. And I think it's our time now. Africa sits on something like 60% of the world's natural resources, but we only get less than 20% of the benefit of those resources from a beneficiation perspective. So I'd like to think that this is the decade for Africa, and I think that the trade restrictions being relaxed is going to hopefully be a game changer.
Anton Ressel joining us in conversation this evening as we're putting the spotlights on SMEs, looking at the trends and within the context of the challenging economic environment, how can SMEs in fact turn that around and leverage opportunity? Anton is strategic head of SME support at Fetola, and you're welcome to share your thoughts, share your experience as an SME owner too on 0829 904 904. Anton, does the election pose any risk, potentially social unrest?
Yeah, that's another good point, Benito. I mean, we hope not. We hope that it's going to be free and fair and peaceful. But as we saw in July a couple of years ago, sometimes our political situation is unpredictable. I guess where we need to be, I suppose, just boxing clever is that small businesses are more vulnerable to disruption, to things like unrest, to protests, to challenges that the elections might potentially deliver at our doorstep. So one would hope not. The signs are currently that things are relatively smooth, and we have a date, and
yes, we
hope that everyone's gonna do the honourable and the right thing and compete freely and fairly. But I guess anything goes, and my motto, like the Boy Scouts, be prepared.
Does that disruption also potentially extend to climate change and how important it is for businesses to focus on sustainability?
So I think that's, we're in the past, and particularly here in Africa, sustainability and the kind of green agenda has been a nice to have for corporates, for the bigger guys in the mining and so on industries. It's increasingly becoming a business imperative. There's no real way around it anymore, and that's only likely to increase. So from a trend perspective, if you're a business that's focused on green solutions, or you're an investor who's putting money into the green and environmental and circular space, one would like to think that you de-risked quite significantly, because it's definitely, I wouldn't even call sustainability a trend anymore. It's here to stay. There's no getting around it. As a planet, we can't keep consuming at this rate. Consumers increasingly are wanting more sustainable solutions and options, and that's the way the world is going, thankfully.
Speaking about aspects that are here to stay, technology, and businesses need to utilize this to their best advantage.
Well, I think what we've learned with things like AI and ChatGPT, and I don't know how many of your listeners have dabbled with it, I'm sure many of them would have, is that I guess, AI is still very much evolving as a tool, and it is really just a tool. But where it has shown a lot of promise is in terms of time saving and cost saving. And as we know, time is money. And I think that businesses that genuinely make a point of embracing the latest technology that's available to us. I mean, we're living in an age where we have greater access to technological tools and time-saving tools than we've ever had in our history. I think businesses that are quite savvy about that and quite deliberate about how they leverage those tools are going to stay ahead of the curve. That said, like anything, I think there's always counter trends. And I do feel like with this increasing focus on technology and, chatting on Zoom and having online meetings and all that kind of stuff, there is going to be a counter trend that at the end of the day, people like to engage with people. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is don't lose sight of the fact that when you can do it face to face, it's always very powerful.
Yeah, and SMEs have that advantage and that potential to be able to do just that. And with that in mind, in terms of the boots on the ground, the entrepreneurs involved, how can they then also continue to build their acumen?
Well, I guess the beauty of the age we live in is that you have access to information at your fingertips. You can literally Google just about anything. You can do things like Coursera and upskill yourself. And, we at Fetola also offer a lot of resources and support for entrepreneurs. They can check out our website, and there's a lot of free stuff there that's really useful for those that want to upskill themselves. But I guess it's about, what do we do with this access that we have? Do we adopt an attitude of continual learning, and growing and developing, or do we just sort of put our heads in the sand and carry on doing what we've always done? And I know that I would personally want to choose the former and recommend it to those that I work with.
Certainly seems to be an environment of continual learning, with things changing so rapidly and organically and on a daily basis. SMEs have always been challenged by funding and access to funding, Anton. What is the landscape currently? Are there improvements within that, or does there still need to be quite a bit of work in order to improve that financial landscape for SMEs?
So I think my answer might surprise a lot of people, in a sense that money and availability of funding and money is not actually, in my opinion, the problem. Certainly not in South Africa. There's a plethora of money. There are many funds. There's corporates putting money in. There's ESD funding. There's donor agency funding. There's a lot of money out there. I think the challenge is that many entrepreneurs, and particularly small businesses, are not really clued up or fey on how to become investment ready and how to position themselves as a low risk, good option to give money to, whether it's a grant or a loan. And that's something that we've increasingly seen in the programs that we run, and that we've increasingly started focusing on, because the reality is that we don't have a strong financial literacy and numeracy culture and background for many reasons in South Africa, sadly. And yet that is what's required when one is accessing or wanting to access investment and finance. So I guess my advice would be, get that right from the beginning. Don't shy away from the numbers and the financial side of your business, because when it comes to looking for money or funding, you've got to present a strong case, and you're going to be up against others trying to do the same. So I don't think the problem is access to finance per se. It's positioning oneself correctly to be able to access that finance.
And how can SMEs acquire that assistance or get the know-how to become investment ready?
I guess it's just about don't be scared of the numbers. What we tend to do as individuals and humans is things that are a little bit foreign to us or not really our comfort zone, we tend to shy away from. And I guess I would say the information is out there, Start recording things from the beginning. Get a simple financial management system. There's many free ones. I know that F&B offers a free platform, and there's numerous other ones that one can use. And just try and start doing it properly from the beginning, even if it's as simple as just using an Excel spreadsheet and recording your income and expenses. And get comfortable with the numbers, because it's really going to serve you well when you start to scale.
Is this where you at Fetola can also assist SMEs, Anton?
Sure. I mean, all of our programs have what we call a money magic component. So like a silver thread running through them that aims to help entrepreneurs become more comfortable with the money side of their businesses. And there are some free resources as well on our various platforms and newsletters that we put out in terms of cash flow management and costing and pricing and that kind of thing. So if people are interested, they can check out our website, they can pop us a mail, and we'd be more than happy to help.
Do you think those are some of the key aspects in building that resilience, being investment ready, being agile, knowing the landscape, having the necessary acumen around what you do and your competitors, and utilizing technology to your benefit?
Yeah, I think you've summed it up nicely. I mean, the reality is that in times of challenge, which we're facing now as a globe, really. One has to box clever. One has to be nimble. One has to roll with the punches. Excuse all the boxing analogies, but they work quite well in this context. One has to be able to read, analyze, understand, and adapt. And fortunately, small businesses are actually in a much stronger position than big corporates to be able to do that. I always like to use an example, when things go south or unexpected things happen. The bigger companies, corporates and so on are very slow. They're like a big tanker on the ship, which takes, several hours just to turn around and change course. Whereas entrepreneurs and small businesses, I would compare more to a speedboat, much more nimble, much more easily able to adapt. And I think this is a time now where one needs to leverage that.
Anton, lastly, where could SME owners find out more around what you do at Fetola?
So they can visit our website, which is fetola.co.za. And there's a number of different sort of platforms and channels that they can sign up to. Check us out. We're also on LinkedIn as well as Facebook, and have a really active sort of social media engagement platform. So by all means, check it out, get in touch with us. Our primary goal is to help small businesses succeed and hopefully change the trajectory of our country.
Fetola.co.za. Anton Ressel is Strategic Head of SME Support at Fetola. Appreciate your time and your insights, Anton. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the conversation this evening.